Let's check it again.
Welcome back to the Jaws Obsession, where we are here to share with you, prove to you, convince you, or remind you that Jaws is the greatest movie of all time. Thank you very much for returning here in the Jaws Obsession for another episode, episode 92, the Summer of Jaws, 2025. Thank you very much for coming back here. I felt that we're halfway through this 50th anniversary of Jaws, the summer tour that the Book of Quint is on right now. And what I wanted to do was bring everybody up to speed, maybe take an episode to have some thoughts, some reflections on obviously just got back from USS Indianapolis Memorial for the 80th anniversary of the sinking there. This week we are leaving to head over to England for the Robert Shaw Festival that's over there. We're at the midpoint, halfway through the summer here. I receive a lot of emails, and there's questions that I want to answer, but that maybe I can answer here. So that's why I decided to take this episode 92 to just title it for the Summer of Jaws 2025, and just some of my thoughts and also some updates on some prequel news that we're hearing in the media, that other studios are coming out with their own prequels to some of their movies, some of their legacy projects. Then we'll talk about the Book of Quint and the audiobook. It's moved up to the ranking charts now. One of the bestseller ranking charts on Amazon for Audible, for the audiobook to the Book of Quint. Very exciting. So let's get right into that right now. This was the 80th anniversary, 80 years ago to the date of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. So the legacy organization there, that they all gather, came from around the world, around the country, families of those that survived and those that were lost at sea during the Indianapolis tragedy. This was the 10th year for the Honor Watch, headed up by Michael Emery and Jim Belcher there. I was invited back to help with the presentation and the Honor Watch. My personal belief is there is a responsibility, that being the author of the Book of Quint. Those of you who have read the Book of Quint, the first 11 chapters show the surviving the last day in the water, August 2nd, 1945, with Quint in the water. Of course, the life living with the tragedy that Quint's life was. So I felt that there's a responsibility that I have in order to not just be there for the USS Indianapolis Legacy Organization, but also for the family members and those that still come to the memorial every year to honor those that lost their lives, or even those that survived but are no longer with us. As you know, there's still one survivor left, Harold Bray. He's 98 years old, living in Benicia, California. He could not make it there. I still feel very strongly about going there and representing the Book of Quint, answering any questions or concerns that anyone might have, and just doing my part in order to show that this story was handled responsibly, that there was a responsibility behind the writing, and to be able to bring the events of the Indianapolis to a new audience using Quint and the characters of Jaws. At the conference center, I was able to attend some of the speeches and presentations by various dignitaries and authors that have also written about the USS Indianapolis. I learned so much. It was great to see. It was great to meet people that I met last year when I first arrived there in 2024. By day 3, that was when the Honor Watch was going to happen. That was on July 30th. Remember, it was the night of the 29th, and shortly after midnight into the 30th was when the Indianapolis was sunk. So the Honor Watch takes place for all of the day on the 30th at the memorial in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. So I got there very early. There was a live news camera there. They were doing spots at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. live. At the top of the hour, they were doing live spots there. And Michael Emery asked me to do the 8 o'clock live spot, which went well. So that kicked off the day, and then that's when the heat started. Obviously, 100-degree heat index well over 100 degrees. It was great to be back with Michael Emery, Jim and Sandy Belcher, Michael Hussey. We all were there. We helped set up canopies and had ice water station for the elderly and keep them out of the sun. For many older veterans were there, that we wanted to make sure that everyone was able to stay hydrated. Obviously, Earl and Marilyn Henry were there. Earl Henry Jr., who I talked about in the presentation video that was episode 90. He was there with his wife, Marilyn. Remember, his father was the dentist on board the USS Indianapolis, who was lost at sea. Great to see both of them and to hear Earl's encouragement. He saw the presentation, and he's read the Book of Quint. And it's just one of those things where it's the history of the moment. It comes right at you. That means so much to myself. With this journey that we've been on here. This is going on 5 years now, since 2020. There were two highlights that I wanted to talk about. Actually, three. But there was while the afternoon was winding down and the crowd was thinning out. If you remember last year, I met Atsuko Lida, and I was able to present her with a Book of Quint. And she is the granddaughter of Commander Hashimoto. He was the captain of the Japanese submarine I-58 that sank the USS Indianapolis. Atsuko Lida's presence at the memorial has been ongoing for over 20 years, that she's highlighted in the book Indianapolis by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Vladeck. I just wanted to read a little bit about Atsuko here. The book details the events of Commander Hashimoto, how he became a Shinto priest, and later on in his life, he would travel to the U.S. and meet with the survivors, and that he was a very, very big proponent of the exoneration of Captain McVeigh. He would talk about forgiveness, and that he would always say about the terrible things that were done during the war. Atsuko, she is carrying on the tradition that her grandfather started by having her presence there, that the survivors welcomed her. It's on page 438. A young Japanese woman had also come to the reunion. Her name was Atsuko Lida, and she was the granddaughter of Commander Hashimoto. Initially nervous about attending the ship's reunions, Atsuko worried about upsetting the families of Indies lost at sea. This year, though, encouraged by her husband John, she had brought along her two young sons and her mother, Commander Hashimoto's daughter. This would be the first time the Hashimoto family met so many people connected to the Indianapolis. At the banquet that night, a procession of speakers paid homage to the Indianapolis survivors, the families of the lost at sea, and also the rescuers, many of whom had come. To close out the evening, per long tradition, Glenn Morgan climbed onto the stage as he did each year to lead the crowd in singing a final song, God Bless America. Morgan stepped up to the microphone and he said, "Now, we haven't done this before, but what I'd like to do is have all the children come up here." The banquet hall broke into applause as the children and grandchildren of the survivors and lost-at-sea families began streaming toward the stage. School-aged children weaved their way through the banquet tables while parents led their preschoolers by the hand. From a table near the front where she sat with her husband and sons, Atsuko Lida watched the children winding their way forward. She glanced at her own two boys, unsure. Suddenly, the Indy family seated around her began motioning her toward the stage, encouraging her with smiles. "Yes, Atsuko, you too. Go up there." Nervously, Atsuko stood, taking her sons by the hand, and by their hands, she began making her way towards Morgan and the large group of gathering children. In this hall, there was no room for hatred. In those war years, families on both sides had been torn. Hashimoto may have claimed a victory in the war's final moments, but he returned home to find his country in ashes. And the survivors' joy over America's victory was swallowed up in the trial they endured. Now, though, they were healing. And the book closes out, they write, Atsuko reached the front of the room with her boys. At the microphone, Morgan sang the first notes. 500 people watched with smiles and tears as Hashimoto's family and the Indianapolis families joined together and sang as one. And that is from page 440 from Indianapolis by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Vladeck. If you know the history of the Indianapolis with McVeigh and how he was court-martialed, and then there was the exoneration, and that Commander Hashimoto played a role in support of McVeigh. Bring up to the present time, 80th anniversary, I'm standing there and Atsuko comes up to me because we met earlier. I shook her hand earlier, so we said hi, but there were so many people that, and there were so many things going on, flag folding and all that. And I was moving around, but now with the crowd thinning out, she approached me and we had a moment where she had a few questions about the Book of Quint. She gave it the thumbs up, and she said that she really enjoyed the book and she liked the writing, and she had all these questions about how was I able to write in such detail, and that it was and I explained to her about my history on the Polar Star and in the Coast Guard, sailing on the ocean, and all these different topics that we touched on. But while we were talking, it was an involved conversation. But I found myself getting taken up in the moment because of the connection to the history. That here it was the granddaughter to the commander of the I-58 submarine. And just the connection to the whole moment. And now we're talking about the Book of Quint and the details inside it. And that was a very inspirational moment for myself to be able to be welcomed into this group that had a lot of history together, the survivors, the families that lost loved ones at sea. You just don't know how serious of a topic this is until you talk to people who've lost their father or lost their grandfather at sea, and the stories, and they have all the letters. They have the photos of their grandparents together. They have the last photo that their parents ever took together, or their grandparents ever took together. The lady that has the photo of her father holding her as a baby the last time right before he left for deployment, and that was the last time he ever held her. And to hear an 81-year-old woman with tears in her eyes explain that story, you realize how important this moment is. And that Jaws was able to highlight that in such a small little way, but not in a complete way. And that's where the Book of Quint comes in, and it fills that void so that these families now feel the story is pushed out a little farther with more detail, so the future generations know that it's not just a speech on board the Orca. There are other details and other things to actually see and hear and witness that the Book of Quint brings to life. And when you hear these stories, I feel that was always the true purpose behind this Book of Quint, was there was something more there that was left to be desired for inside Jaws. Jaws is an amazing movie, but this attraction we have as we come back to the movie and we constantly rewatch it for those little moments, those little bits of humanity that are there. But there's also what I talked about in the last episode, that iceberg theory. That's just the tip above the water. There's an entire emotional base, and there's a historical base that is underneath the water with Jaws. And the Book of Quint is there to give you a window so you can peer through the depths and you can actually see that base. And that hit me right there when I was talking to Atsuko Lida. And for to be within this family of the Legacy organization and welcomed in, it's quite the honor, and it's not to be taken lightly. That's the main takeaway here. For 50 years, Jaws has been around, and we saw what happened as the sequels. We know the opinions of director Steven Spielberg, how he did not approve of those sequels, and nor should we, is that it took what you have and it made it into a punchline. And the Book of Quint is here to reverse all that. And that is what the moment was telling me. And it's very important. And I just was so taken aback at the moment. I was actually nervous speaking to Miss Lida. And but to hear that her glowing review of the book, she gave it the thumbs up. That's just such a great endorsement. I was so proud of that endorsement. So that was a great moment. And I remember Sandy Belcher came over and snapped a photo. So that's the photo you see right now of myself and Atsuko Lida on July 30th, on the 80th anniversary of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. talking about the Book of Quint. So that was one of the highlights. The next highlight was this is after everybody cleared out. So it was just a few of us left, and it was very hot. We were all exhausted, and being out in the heat for 8-9 hours. And to me, it's a great little way of immersion. It's a great little way of putting yourself into what these men went through for that first day. Last year, it was hot as well, and from what I understand, it's always hot there. And on July 30th in Indianapolis. So to be there and to actually run the gauntlet and be there the whole day, it's a little bit of a sacrifice to put you in that mindset and say, wow, these guys were in the water for close to 5 days, and to be there all day was sort of a little bit of a tribute to those men, and it brings you a little closer to the reality of what they went through. That was very interesting. But at the end of the day, I was sitting in under one of the canopies, and I saw that Jim Belcher had a Kapok life vest, but this was a life vest that's designed to be worn around the waist with suspenders. It was just sitting off to the side, and he showed me it earlier, and it was being passed around by the attendees of the memorial service. But now it was just sitting off to the side. The story behind this is that he had this out at one of the prior memorials. At one of the prior reunions, he had this laying out there, and one by one, the survivors were passing it around, and one of them had a silver pen, and one of them signed it. So they each came up and were signing this life vest, and the signatures are still there. If you look very closely, you can see the survivors' signatures. For those that are not watching this on the YouTube video and just listening on the podcast, you can go over to Instagram at Book of Quint. I made a post about this with that Kapok life jacket. You go in close, you can actually see the faded signatures of all these survivors that signed that. But as I was holding this material, and I'm covered in sweat, and it's very hot, and I'm holding this material, and if you feel that material, it's very, very coarse, it's very rough. We are so used to the soft cotton blends that we have nowadays are not as abrasive on the skin now. But when I was holding this material in the heat, it felt like sandpaper. And I couldn't help but think what these men were wearing these. And Jim mentioned earlier, he said because it was a suspender-based life jacket, that it would actually go up around the chest. It would actually float up as the guys were getting tired. It wouldn't just sit around your waist like it was designed to do. It would go, guys would lose weight, and then they would sink into it. So it was up underneath the arms, and then it started to cut their skin because they're hanging by it. And that material would just, rub on their skin, and constantly the abrasiveness would shred them, and they'd start to bleed. And that was only in the first day, so that these guys were, clinging to these things. And to hold the material, but to see the signatures, I couldn't help but think these survivors, that when they held the material for the first time, when they signed this, what was that feeling like? Did that bring them back those memories about what it felt like to be back on the ship and in the water with this Kapok material? The Kapok material is the stuff that's inside, but the outer layer, the fabric, it's very, very coarse. It's very rough. Holding that of a connection to history. That was a moment that I'll never forget, being in front of that monument and all those names that are there, and seeing the flowers and the flag that was folded with it's the 48-star flag that actually flew on the Indianapolis. But that right there is that connection to history, the history of the moment. It's impossible to forget moments like that. And that's why we do things like that. That's why we go to these reunions, and that's why it's important to keep these connections to the history open and ongoing, so future generations will be able to experience that as well. It was quite the honor that they surprised me with. They surprised me with a folded U.S. flag, and it has the date stamped on it that they flew this over the monument on the 80th anniversary of the sinking, and then it was folded and presented to me as a way of saying thank you for helping out at the memorial, but also as part of welcoming me to the USS Indianapolis Legacy Organization. And this is quite the honor, this flag. I'm going to get a case for it. You know, at first when I was writing the Book of Quint, there's a lot of nerves that happen because you don't want to write the wrong moment. You don't want to do an injustice or a disservice to those who have lost their lives. And there is a lot of pressure that builds up. And I just see this flag right here, this presentation of this flag, which I am so grateful for. I see it as a way of the book being able to move on. I mean, what an honor it is to actually own a flag that was flown over the monument on the 80th anniversary, but also that it came from from families of those that lost their lives and those that survived. That means so much to what we are trying to do here. Was the history of the moment given justice with the Book of Quint? And I will always see this U.S. flag as the answer to that question, that yes, the Book of Quint is a success. So very successful trip to Indianapolis, and and it was just wonderful to be there. Let's change gears here. Let's move on to movie talk. I want to talk about the cinema and some of the things that I've been seeing. And a lot of people write and ask me questions about, is there going to be a movie to the Book of Quint? What about a movie version? How is that coming along? As everyone knows, with my agent, Bill Pettit of the William Pettit Agency, we've been pretty much in development with the Book of Quint for a feature film for about 2.5 years. It's been quite a lot of phone calls. There's been meetings. My agent Bill Pettit, he's been on the phones constantly with many different high-level executives at all the various companies. You name it. We got Universal, Amblin, CAA. But right now, I want to talk about what is the current state in 2025. I'm seeing a lot of things happening out there, and we need to talk about this because it really should be talked about, because I just really believe that the time and energy right now for a prequel to Jaws, the Book of Quint, is more important and more needed now than ever before. The overall theme that you're going to see here are that ideas will always happen. I don't know if in a book that I've read there's a really great book that I have here, the Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And in this book, he's a famous music producer, and he's been on a number of podcasts, and it's just a really amazing book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And if you in that, he talks about ideas. You might have an idea, but if you do not act on it in that time, that idea is out there. And then it will be another artist or someone else who comes in and seizes upon that idea and then has the means to bring that into reality. So he asks about, did you ever have an idea of something or an invention or something, and then it comes out, but you didn't act on it when you was. Not that someone copied you, is that when you're a creative person, there's these energies that are floating all around. And it's up to the creative writer, filmmaker, musician, artist, painter, that they will seize upon that energy, and that idea then becomes reality because they are the ones that make it into reality. But if you do not seize upon it at that time, someone else will. That's just the history of this planet, is that happens. Someone had an idea for a light bulb, or someone had an idea for a rotary engine, but there was the people that were able to make it happen, actually made it happen. And that's where you have a lot of people will try things and then it will fail, because they didn't either have the tools or they didn't have the drive to actually bring it into reality. But then it comes out somewhere else, and it's not that it was copied, that someone had the tools and the life experience to bring it into reality. So that's why what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing that a lot of the things we talked about on this podcast for the last 3 years plus are now coming in, because these are nothing special. Everyone else knows that if they can feel what audiences want. You can actually see when endless sequels and derivatives and remakes and reboots do not work. And you can see box office returns waning, and you can see that. So what happens is there's a pivot, and other people start picking up on things. So one of the things that came out was that Christopher Nolan, Entertainment Weekly, over at EW.com, we have tickets for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey sells out in select theaters a year before release. Over at NME.com, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is already selling out 1 year before it's in cinemas. Blockbuster arrives July 16th, 2026. IMAX screenings of Christopher Nolan's Odyssey have already sold out a year in advance. Now, The Guardian reports that all U.S. screenings sold out within an hour, with both UK locations, London's Science Museum and the BFI IMAX also selling out quickly. The article reports that scalpers were advertising tickets online for $300 to $400 a ticket. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at that Christopher Nolan's selling out The Odyssey a year in advance. So on Instagram, Cine Nolan, one of the accounts on Instagram, posted an image, and it says, "The Odyssey tickets for the first day have been sold out worldwide in less than 3 minutes, 1 year in advance. Due to insane demand, many ticket apps like Fandango and AMC crashed. The only director in the history of world cinema to pull off this feat with just his name." Well, I responded on Instagram, and I said, I know one other director with just his name that could do that, if not better. And that is Mr. Steven Spielberg. And with the right material, with the right film, I don't see why Mr. Spielberg could not match this. I don't see why Steven Spielberg could not do better. You have to realize that I still believe in Steven Spielberg is the greatest blockbuster director of all time. And I believe that he can return to that level, given the right material. And that material is the Book of Quint. And just ask yourself, if you look at the advertising for this, for the Odyssey, and what Christopher Nolan is heading up here, this is forward thinking. This is how things will be done now, because to get audiences into cinemas, you need to have energy, you need to have gravitas, and you need to have full-on weight of the moment. And look at that. The Odyssey 1 year from now selling out all these 70mm IMAX screenings. With the right material, with something that's timeless, that I think this is going to be a very, very well-made movie. I think it's going to do great. Obviously, it's going to do great. It's already selling out theaters a year in advance. But I believe that director Steven Spielberg could do the same, if not more, because he still is Steven Spielberg. For everything I've seen with this 50th anniversary of Jaws is still extremely popular. But there's only so many re-releases that you can do. Eventually, you have to expand the universe in a responsible way. And that's why I believe this prequel, the Book of Quint, is that way. I responded that. I said, no, there's still one other director that can do that. And it's a little bit of a frustration for me, because I see James Cameron, I see Christopher Nolan make these billion-dollar movies, and I say, well, why not Steven Spielberg? Where is the material for him? And I believe, after what I'm seeing and what you're going to see later on, I'm going to get to some of these numbers now after the next few articles that we have to highlight here. But I really, truly believe that the Jaws fans have spoken and are continuing to speak, that the Book of Quint is that vehicle. Just imagine a poster that says Steven Spielberg returns to the ocean, the Book of Quint. Tickets on sale 1 year from now, and the tickets go on sale. You don't think there's going to be sellout screenings for that? I think there will be. And that's what the weight of the moment that we're dealing with here. When I was in Martha's Vineyard for Amity Week, the energy was on our end of the week. Yes, we had Jaws at 50, and we had the new documentary, and we had all the actors, and we had Richard Dreyfuss was there. But when they all left the island, there were a lot of fans that were coming to Martha's Vineyard, and then they came to our event, the presentation that was on Friday, and then the book screening on Saturday. And they were saying, we were hoping that there was something else going on, that once Jaws turns 50, now what? And now they have a whole novel, the Book of Quint. They have 91, 92 episodes of the Jaws obsession. It's this entire universe that unlocks and opens up. And if you see the energy, it's just absolutely amazing. And that is the energy of the moment that we are at. And I truly believe in the 21st century that this is the vehicle, the Book of Quint is the vehicle that Steven Spielberg can use to remind everyone that, sure, you'll have Christopher Nolan's and you'll have James Cameron's, but remember, there will always be one and only Mr. Steven Spielberg. That right there was my first thought when I saw that they're already pre-selling tickets for a movie that hasn't even been made yet. Granted, I think they just wrapped shooting, so they're going to go a whole year of post-production, and then you have the whole advertising, and you have the marketing campaign, but still, forward thinking. Got to act now while the energy is high. 50th anniversary of Jaws. What are we doing about it? That's myself, my agent. What are we doing about it? We're going to put that back to Amblin, Universal Studios. Boy, there's a lot left on the table here. So let's get to work. Let's keep going here because I'm not done. We got to keep going. We got other articles to go. Ready? Here we go. Rambo Origins pick John Rambo at Millennium has Noah Centineo in its crosshairs to star. Following word this is from Deadline on August 11th, 2025. Following word this past spring that a package was coming together for a Rambo prequel. Millennium Media looks to have its man as sources tell Deadline that Noah Centineo is attached to star in John Rambo. Sisu director Jalmari Helander is set to direct from a screenplay by writing duo Rory Haynes and Sorab Nashirvani. Sources say the plan is to shoot top of 2026 in Thailand. Insiders also add that while no deals are in place, Lionsgate is the frontrunner to land the package. The studio has released the past two Rambo picks and also has a relationship with Helander, having worked with him on Sisu. So, what do we have here? We have a Rambo prequel being announced with Lionsgate as the runner-up. There's no novel. There's nothing that shows that this is anything the fans want. There's nothing that shows that this will even be a success. But yet they're moving ahead with the production. Very interesting. So Rambo prequel, moving ahead with the production. Lionsgate the front runner-up, 2026. With not just an idea, but it's the prequel. Remember, we have the moment. It's a smart play. It's going to be, from what I understand here, if we keep going down, the original 1982 film saw Sylvester Stallone play the veteran Green Beret, one of the most iconic action heroes, U.S. cinemas. I'm going to put all these articles on the show notes over at Telegram. That you'll have a link in the description if you want to go read that. But from what I understand here, this is going to be set in the Vietnam War era. It's going to show Rambo coming through boot camp, becoming a Green Beret. So very similar, iconic character. We're going to have a prequel. Where have we heard that idea before? Well, These are nothing. This is nothing new here. It's just being acted upon by these other studios. Let's move on. NBC Peacock, also affiliated with Universal. Peacock announces Friday the 13th prequel series, Crystal Lake. What is this now? Yes, Peacock announced a brand new prequel series to the iconic horror franchise Friday the 13th called Crystal Lake, named for the camp where Mrs. Voorhees and Jason terrorized countless college-age counselors is coming to the platform. Exact details of the series are being kept under wraps, so we can't reveal anything lest we end up on the wrong end of Jason's machete. But is this contrived? Is this organic? How is this actually going to come about? There's a lot of questions here, but let's just forget all those questions for now, but let's just focus on the moment. Rambo prequel, Friday the 13th prequel. So that was announced back in 2022. And now look at it. They've finally gone. Friday the 13th prequel series finally starts filming. First set photos reveal fitting code name. So the big news has been revealed for fans. Friday the 13th franchise, just days after celebrating a real Friday the 13th this month. The long gestating prequel series Crystal Lake has finally started filming after having some hiccups with pre-production. So they were in pre-production for going on 3 years, from 2022 till now, but they finally started filming because why? The prequel idea is in vogue. It's coming into form here. We're going to keep moving on here. I have a lot of these to go through. Okay, how about a Star Wars prequel? We do know that there were famous prequel, the trilogy that was made. But we're talking Lucasfilm. This is from StarWarsNewsNet.com. Lucasfilm announces new Darth Vader novel, Star Wars Master of Evil, and more publishing updates. So my belief with back in 2022, and when I started with the Book of Quint research in 2020, was that if you bring a novel out, you are able to bring the story to the fans, and you are able to rally the fan base around the novel. And then what happens is that you have this groundswell of energy, a groundswell of support that pushes it in and gives it momentum. If you saw what happened with Friday the 13th, they stalled in pre-production because there wasn't a novel. It wasn't really any. It was just a screenplay idea, series, and obviously you have a lot of pre-production problems. And now you're into casting and shooting. But however, look at what Disney's doing here. Disney's a week ahead. I'm going to read this on. This is from April 10th, 2025. A week ahead of Star Wars Celebration, Lucasfilm revealed new tidbits about this year's publishing releases, including new cover art, release dates, and some exciting new titles that will be coming to the galaxy. Okay, so you have Star Wars Master of Evil. Top of the list is Master of Evil by Adam Christopher, author of the best-selling Shadow of the Sith, which invites readers on a dark journey with Darth Vader before the events of A New Hope in his attempt to attain the power to defeat death. Simon Gonard is responsible for the haunting cover art. Masters of Evil hits bookshelves November 11th, 2025. So you have a Darth Vader prequel novel, Master of Evil, by Adam Christopher, is going to be coming out November 2025 in just a few months. So Disney is going to have this published. They're going to have a published novel, and just in time for 2027, which is going to be Star Wars 50th anniversary. We do know they're going to have a new Star Wars movie that's going to come out with Ryan Gosling. That was announced. So in 2027, you're going to have the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. You're going to have a new Star Wars movie released. And who knows where this is going to go, this Master of Evil, this Darth Vader prequel novel. And it's going to be, looks like it's following the same format. Release the novel. Let's see where it goes. And then you're going to possibly make the movie. It's very interesting. But what does this do? This backs up everything that we've been doing here at the Jaws Obsession. This backs up that other studios and other creatives are following suit. They're actually doing these. And I'm not saying that we're inspiring this. That would be silly. But what I'm trying to say is that these ideas are out there. This plan of this way of taking care of a cinematic franchise or a cinematic film or a character That's what audiences clearly want. They want something that has heart put into it, that has more depth and more thought. So look what's happening now. Disney coming out with a prequel novel, Master of Evil for Darth Vader. Oh, we have a few more here. We have Fright Night. Fright Night. Remember the vampire movie from the mid-'80s. It's going to turn 40 years old. And Fright Night, new prequel novel, will take place in 1970s Manhattan. This is from bloodydisgusting.com. June 16th, 2025. There's Chris Sarandon in his vampire makeup, and the world of director Tom Holland's vampire classic Fright Night is getting another expansion with an upcoming prequel novel simply titled Fright Night, a press release has announced. Best-selling author Michael Harbron is writing the official prequel to the movie, marking a new chapter in the cult franchise. The project is a collaboration with the film's original creator, Tom Holland. The announcement comes as the cult classic celebrates its 40th anniversary. Best known for his supernatural horror series, Interview with the Devil, Harbron will also play a key role in shaping the Fright Night universe, expanding its mythology, deepening its lore, and building narrative leads that connect future stories. Future stories. Building its lore, building narrative threads that connect future stories. This is a homecoming for me. Fright Night was my first horror movie I ever saw, and I'm honored to be writing its prequel, said Harbron. I'm going to deliver more evil, more paranoia, and something darker, setting the stage for a whole universe of stories to come. The novel will explore the events that unfolded before Fright Night origins during a gritty and culturally explosive Manhattan in the 1970s. It takes a bold atmospheric approach, fusing the pulpy charm of the original with immersive world building and classic Americana horror. It says Fright Night is set for release October 2025. That's where the novel Fright Night, that's the prequel novel, is going to be released October 2025. So here you are, the original creator of Fright Night is partnering up, and they have an author writing the prequel novel that's going to create and expand the lore, the universe. And for a prequel movie, obviously, is that these are the precursors. This method of rolling out a novel, I've always said on this show, is going to be the way forward. When instead of studios risking tens of millions of dollars, $100 million, and hundreds of million dollars when you factor in the marketing costs on something that is not tested, you are going to see more novels and more books written, and then those novels will then be tested. They'll test the waters on Amazon, and they'll test their waters with the fans there. And if the temperature is right, that's when the studios will move on these movies. But the work is already happening. Prequel novel, then to movie. And that's why I wanted to stress is that when you have the Book of Quint, we've already had this work. Our work has been done since 2022. Very, very interesting. And that we are now seeing this creative energy manifest itself in other forms with other studios. Okay? We've got Rambo, Friday the 13th. We got the Darth Vader novel. Now we have a Fright Night novel. Let's go over and talk about Michael Mann here over at theworldofreal.com. Remember, we talked about Michael Mann and Heat 2. Heat 2 was a book that he wrote back in 2022 that he published, detailing prequel elements and sequel elements of Heat. That's why it's called Heat 2. It's almost like gives the Godfather 2 treatment, where you cut back and forth with a young Val Kilmer, young Robert De Niro, young Al Pacino, as in the Heat universe, and then you have a sequel and what happens after the big gunfight and after Robert De Niro was killed in Heat. The latest news on that, August 5th, 2025. This was only from a week ago. Leonardo DiCaprio in talks for Michael Mann's Heat 2 as budget circles $170 million. Warner Brothers, Apple co-finance, possible co-finance. Article says, been tracking this one for over a year now, and it's about time someone caught up. Michael Mann's long-gestating Heat 2, a prequel to his legendary 1995 crime drama, is still very much having money issues. Last year, I reported that Warner Brothers was getting cold feet to fund the $150 million Mann was asking for as recently as last month. According to Puck's Matt Maloney, Mann's original budget landed north of $200 million, a number that gave Warner serious pause. Since then, he reportedly shaved it down to about $170 million. Still, Warner Brothers execs Mike DeLuca and Pam Abney are said to want to make the film happen. The current thinking is bring in a co-financing partner, enter Apple, which has received the script and is reportedly considering coming aboard. And now, if you go over to here, here's the kicker. And it's a big one. Leonardo DiCaprio has been in talks with Mann about starring. Nothing signed just yet, but if he commits, this becomes a different conversation entirely. A DiCaprio-led Heat 2 suddenly looks a lot more like a global event film, and that might be enough to make this film happen. Michael Mann, now 81, has spent the last few years carefully building the foundation for Heat 2, a dual prequel-sequel hybrid based on his 2022 novel co-written with Meg Gardiner. The book charted the early days of Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro in the original, and Vincent Hanna, Al Pacino, while also following Hanna's hunt for the new threat in the aftermath of the original film's climactic shootout. Timeline for this thing still fluid. Mann wants to shoot in 2025, likely for a late 2026 release. Director Michael Mann, 82 years old. Remember, Steven Spielberg is 78. He's going to be 79 in December. These great directors can still be able to perform at a high level. And if Michael Mann pulls this off, and he's always wanted to do this, he followed this same route. He published a novel in 2022, and it is an exceptional novel. It's very well done. If you haven't, go listen to the audiobook for Heat 2. You can find that on Audible. It's one of the better audiobooks. That's just amazing. The actor they have that reads the audiobook, he does an impeccable Al Pacino. It's just amazing. And it's kind of, that was the model that I followed when we created the Book of Quint audiobook. When Jonathan Waters, he just has an impeccable Robert Shaw Quint. It's just amazing. So that was what you build off of. You find that actor that can do that key role, and then he can do the other voices, and you have a successful audiobook, as we're going to get to later on in this episode. The Book of Quint follows that format. So DiCaprio, I have never been shy about when people ask me about DiCaprio, if there was interest with DiCaprio's company Appian Way. I definitely, behind the scenes, I was lobbying for DiCaprio to play the young Mayor Vaughn in the Book of Quint. He is the right age. He's that Wolf of Wall Street age. And he is perfect to play a young Mayor Vaughn, Larry Vaughn, played by Murray Hamilton. It's a weighty role. If you have read the Book of Quint, you will know that Mayor Vaughn plays a pretty good-sized role in that story. And when I wrote it into a screenplay format, I did add scenes in order to beef up Mayor Vaughn's role within that universe, because I just feel that DiCaprio's would do an excellent Murray Hamilton. If you were to maybe even have a prosthetic chin, a little bit of makeup work, and he would just nail down Murray Hamilton. Anchor jacket on him at the end of Book of Quint, that last chapter, just see me out. I think Quint versus Mayor Vaughn and DiCaprio would bring that tension, that energy, as well as he's now aged into this type of role where he could play that slick politician. I think the Book of Quint is perfect for him. Steven Spielberg has worked with DiCaprio before with Catch Me If You Can. They both have a relationship, and this is just one of those things that I wish that this was acted upon sooner. We have been, the people that need to know about this know about it. It's just that in Hollywood, certain people act first and other projects kind of take the back seat. So what I'm trying to show is that we are in this little area, this little bubble where things are happening, energy is happening, and that the Book of Quint is just moving through there, and it's still sitting right there waiting to happen. And it's exciting, the possibilities, if you play it in your mind. And that's one of the things about the audiobook. So let's get into the audiobook. Remember, it's all building up for Jaws' 50th anniversary. This is my local theater here, Regal, Destiny, USA, August 28th. Look at this. You got all these days. Jaws is going to be re-released in theaters. You got in standard and you have real 3D. I know that some people are very excited that it's like, this is excellent. We have Jaws being re-released. Why would Universal be putting all this effort into re-releasing Jaws? We've had the Jaws at 50 documentary. We had the celebration of the 50th anniversary, and now we're re-releasing it into theaters. Could it be that Universal is testing the waters? Are they seeing what the demand is? Because if they are going to revitalize this Jaws franchise, that I would hope that we are at the top, we are the premier project to actually make that happen. Everything points to something great can happen here. It's just there has to be some sort of action on that. And I haven't seen that. I have been kept in the dark on a lot of this. So I don't. So when people write to me and ask me about things, I'm just myself with a microphone. And I just think that the time is now that there is a demand for great movies in the tradition of Oppenheimer, Saving Private Ryan, that historical thriller type movie that's that the Book of Quint would be on the front end of Jaws, adding to the lore of Jaws, allowing you to watch Jaws again for the first time. Absolutely exciting, and it's there for the taking. Okay, on the back of all of that, let's bring everybody up to speed on just what is happening with the Book of Quint. With the summer of 2025, with the 50th anniversary of Jaws, it's just amazing movement that we're seeing here is that we have over here, we have Amazon on Audible, the Amazon bestsellers. Okay. We have bestsellers in historical thrillers that this is our most popular products based on sales, updated frequently. Now, this is for audiobooks. Now, if you look at some of these titles, we have number one, Strangers in Time, a World War II novel, David Baldacci. The Briars Club by Kate Quinn. That's number two. Number three, Stephen King, 11/22/63, a novel. That's at number three. Dan Brown, Angels and Demons, of course, right? Number four. Let's go down. As we look down, we're going to go down. We have Michael Crichton, Dragon Teeth, number 10. And if we keep going down, another Michael Crichton, more David Baldacci. If we go down to number 27, look who's there. There's the Book of Quint. Quint standing strong right at the pulpit. The Book of Quint audiobook at number 27 in the world for historical thrillers on Audible, for Amazon's top sellers list for historical thrillers at number 27. So the Book of Quint cracked into the top 50. It was at 37 yesterday. Now it just moved up to 27. I haven't really been keeping an eye on these numbers because I've been so busy. But it was great to see this happen. And it couldn't have happened without what? Without positive word of mouth, without energy behind this, and a good product. The Book of Quint audiobook is on Audible. It's getting great, 4.8 out of 5 stars it's averaging. It's just one of those things where people are just, the Jonathan Waters performance is just, it's unmatched. To me, it's the top audiobook of the year. And I hope that I'll be able to follow up on maybe place it for some awards because Jonathan deserves the recognition. Mr. Waters just does 22 different voices, over 14 hours and 23 minutes of that audiobook. But what we have here is, of all those things we just listed off, the Rambo prequel, Friday the 13th, Darth Vader, all these things, we have a number 27 in the world audiobook here with the Book of Quint. That's amazing. That's such a great accomplishment. Look at that. We're only 24 spots away from Stephen King. So this audiobook is next level. This is high end. This is high end stuff that people are talking about. They're enjoying, and these numbers do not lie. So it's great. It's great to see. And we're going to keep talking about that. That's going to be one of my things that I've been talking about, the events that we've had with the Jaws 50th event at Amity Week 2025, and then in Indianapolis. And people are enjoying this as they're traveling around. They're listening to the audiobook, but a lot, if you look at those comments, just go right to Audible. Look at the comments that people are leaving. Would make a great movie. The people are really enjoying it. The Jaws fans are making their voices heard, and it's exciting to see. Now, the 3 sold out printings of the paperback. The paperback is out of print. That's sold out. But now I heard an Instagram user messaged me recently, and he told me that the Book of Quint, and he sent me a screenshot of it. I'll put that up right here. The Book of Quint went for $82 on eBay. That an out-of-print book is now, it went for $82, that there were 17 bidders in a bidding war there for this, for one of the paperbacks. And what is that showing? That's showing that there is a demand for the story, that fans want to know more about Quint and about the backstory, and that this is being accepted. This is being accepted, and it's very, and that this would make a successful film, should there be a film version. That these are all little pieces of evidence. So what you do is you make like a case file. Imagine that the studio or the agents to Mr. Spielberg are the jury, and you have to convince them to bring him the project. You have to convince them that this is going to be successful. These are all little pieces of evidence you would drop in as Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3. So I'm constantly taking these when I see something and I forward them over to my agent. I'm like, Bill, you got to send this along. You got to send this out. Because if we don't make noise about it, nobody else will. And that's very important here, is that we have to do these things in order to show just the impact. So what can we do here? Imagine this is without any advertising. Remember, the Book of Quint reaching on Audible, number 27 in the world for historical thrillers. That's with zero advertising on Amazon. That's with zero help from anybody attached to Jaws. That we're really on our own here. Jaws Obsession, and those of you in the audience, and then those of you out there that listen or watch, that are following along, it's really us that's making this happen. It's grassroots from the ground up. And that is what is so special here, is that all those other movies I mentioned before, they don't have that type of effort into the background, into the groundswell of it all. And that's what's different here. That's why I truly believe that this should be Steven Spielberg's next film, is because of the support, that there's a demand and an interest in this subject. And one of my other things is the Instagram teaser trailers. If you look here at the screenshot that I have, the Instagram teaser trailers, I put out 3 trailers on Instagram. And these are teaser trailers, they're about 90 seconds, maybe a little less. And they're just excerpts from the book in the character voices that Jonathan Waters does. And all together, all of them, if you look at the view count, they have over 500,000 views. So that means that there's an interest in the subject matter. We have built up this energy as a Jaws community, as people coming on board, and it's unfortunate. And even though people have maybe heard about it this summer, and they're arriving, a couple years after that, with all this happening, it's all right, because there's so much to do. There's so much work left to do, that it's great to have you on board right now. So the speech from Amity Week 2025, my motivational speech that went on YouTube, now has 55,000 views over at YouTube. Yes, that is still, there's an interest in the subject matter. And that counts for something. And when we highlight that, 55,000 views on YouTube for the 1-hour presentation that I did, introducing the Book of Quint, And then you have 500,000 views for the teaser trailers to the audiobook. That means there's that many people are just going to be sitting there, and it's in their mind that they've heard about the Book of Quint or they're familiar with the subject matter. That is what the studios like to see as a precursor to what would be a successful feature film. But before we close out here, I've been getting asked about books. When are books going to be available? Are there books? Are there any books left? The audiobook is there. The ebook is on Kindle, but the hardcovers. So we're rolling out the hardcovers. We had a micro printing of 200 on the first printing. I have now ordered a second printing. So there's 300 books being made down in New Jersey at Lightning Press right now. It's going to be the same book that you see. Everything is the same. It's just a little bit larger. Now I've gone to 300. Okay, in the next few days, I will be leaving to go to the Jaws 50th anniversary and all things Robert Shaw, 16th and 17th of August, 2025. Remember, this is this sold out, but they added tickets this week. So there's a few tickets left here. It's free to go. You just have to reserve a ticket because they need to keep the crowd size moderated, and it's now over 200. So this is going to be quite the event. This is celebrating 50 years of Jaws as we delve into the films, books, and plays of Robert Shaw. This is going to be remember 2 years ago when I brought the Book of Quint to Westhoughton. This is Robert Shaw's hometown at 3440 Market Street, Westhoughton in United Kingdom. This is the pub that's named after him, and they have a nice beer garden out back that has this mural with all these Robert Shaw images and movie posters. So that says, join us in celebrating the iconic movie Jaws and legendary actor, writer Robert Shaw. Guests on the day are Ryan Dacco from the Jaws Obsession podcast, author of the Book of Quint. Then we're going to have Joe Mills, actor, broadcaster, owner, creator of the Shaw family-approved website, Robert Archibald Shaw. Adrian McKenna, musician, author of the fast-moving Beat Show, and authority on the books, films, theaters of Robert Shaw. Don't miss this unique opportunity to honor the legacy of Jaws and Robert Shaw. Grab your tickets now and dive into the world of this timeless cinematic masterpiece. Westhoughton Library, also near Robert Shaw, is running a day of activities related to Jaws sharks on the 16th of August, all ages. It's a very exciting event because this is an event that has been long overdue. There really has never been a Robert Shaw event in the United Kingdom like this. So this is, we just had happy birthday to Robert Shaw. 98th birthday was August 9th, and that just happened. So here we are a week after that, and we're going to be talking about his books, his plays, obviously his roles. We're going to be screening some of his movies. We have a Q&A scheduled. I'm going to be on a panel there with the other authors. Exciting to meet everybody again. We have people coming from all over England. And what I'm doing is I have, even though the books are sold out, I did hold a few books back from the first printing, the last few, and I'm going to be bringing them with me to England to raffle off at this event. So everybody should have a shot at putting their name into the yellow barrel, and then they will be able to get one of these books of Quint. For now, that's how we're going to do it for now. But the audiobook is going to be, we're going to be talking about the audiobook, and I'll be there to sign whatever needs to be signed, take photos. I want to meet everyone from the UK side of the Jaws Obsession. Remember, Hayden Wheeler has been running that Jaws Obsession UK on Twitter X over there, as well as Facebook. And he has just done an amazing amount of work at getting the news out about the Book of Quint, but keeping things going on the UK side of things with the time difference and all that. And plus myself, I just cannot possibly manage all those different social media avenues. And Hayden has been able to do that. And with him and Chris, both got together and they said, let's do a Robert Shaw festival. And this is so interesting because no one's ever thought of this. Remember, the Robert Shaw novels, Hiding Place, The Flag, Sun Doctor, all these, the Man in the Glass Booth. So there's so many things that Robert Shaw had worked on, published novels, and a lot of them have been lost. They're out of print. And we're going to talk about that, how to bring those back, maybe working with the family to bring those back into modern times. But also, it's great to enjoy and talk about his work, Robert Shaw's work, on the 50th anniversary of Jaws. That this great man who had a hand in creating Jaws, I believe, just as much as a director or writer, is that he brought a lot of himself and prior roles into that role of Quint. And the Jaws just never would be Jaws without Robert Shaw. And we're going to be there to celebrate that. 2 days, 11 to 6 each day. I leave here Friday, and I'll be there Saturday morning. So it's going to be quite the event, but it's going to be really exciting to see everybody that I have communicated with and that I met before 2 years ago. But to come back now with the Book of Quint in such a more like an elevated way, that the Book of Quint it became larger, the base grew, the listening, the fan base grew, and it's going to be great to celebrate that. So I'll be seeing you all there. After I come back, the next event after that is going to be the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Festival, Port of New London, September 6th and 7th, 2025. So I was invited to be part of this festival because they have a Jaws 50th anniversary section of this festival. Now, this is going to be the 250th anniversary of the American Navy, but it's a co-celebration with the 50th anniversary of the movie of Jaws. So they have a whole section of us coming over for the Jaws events here. The Jaws 50th anniversary celebration. They have actors. You have Christopher Shaw Myers with his book on Robert Shaw. You have the return of a legend, the Orca. Michael Sterling, founder of the Sterling Marine Carpentry. He has his recreation of the Orca, and he was there on Martha's Vineyard for the Jaws 50th, and he's going to be here with that as well. We have Alex Kintner, Jeff Voorhees, the actor who played Alex Kintner. He's going to be there as well. And then we have Keith from the Living Sharks Museum. It's going to be set up with his museum with pieces and educating about sharks. As you know, we have T-shirts that are sold over there. The Book of Quint is part of that museum. There's going to be screenings of Jaws at the Historic Guard Arts Center. And then you have yours truly, Ryan Dacco, author of the Book of Quint, is going to be there as well. I'm going to be set up next to Keith, so the Living Sharks Museum, and I'm going to be there with Keith set up with a brand new second printing, 300 books of the Book of Quint, ready to go to whoever wants one. It's going to be there, as well as next to me is going to be Jim Belcher from the USS Indianapolis CA-35 Legacy Organization. Jim is going to be set up with educational books and materials, as well as a model of the USS Indianapolis. So we're all going to be there, and it's going to be great to talk to everyone, meet new people, right in the heart of New England, right next to the Coast Guard Academy. You can't get any more maritime heritage than that. It's going to be very exciting. So everyone, if you are in the area, I would love to see you come out for the Jaws 50th anniversary celebration at the Connecticut Maritime Heritage Fest, September 6th and 7th. So I will be there, and that's going to be when the first books are going to be available from that second printing. I'm hoping to have a mail order system set up. We got to figure that out, because there's people that can't make it to these festivals, but they still want a book, and that's how we're going to have to work that out. I don't know if we're going to have to work that out somehow as we move to the holidays. How do we get these books out? That's still left to be worked on here. So with that, that's our midsummer rundown. Thank you very much for listening to episode 92 of the Jaws Obsession. It's been an honor, and we're going to move on with some expanded Jaws universe episodes. This has been episode 91 of the Jaws Obsession, Summer of Jaws 2025. Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. I had a little think about an hour ago, and it's gotten right to my head. Wherever I may roam, by land or sea or home. I don't know. Do I need to read the disclaimer? I don't think we played any Jaws. Okay, let's read it anyways. The movie Jaws is copyrighted property of Universal Studios. Any references and sampling from the movie Jaws in this episode is intended to fall within Section 107 of the Copyright Act. The copyrighted materials are fairly used for the purposes of criticism, comment, reporting, teaching, and research. The materials used here are protected by the fair use guidelines of Section 107 of the Copyright Act. All rights reserved to the copyright owners. So in closing, Jaws fans, I guess what I'm trying to say here is what the case I'm laying out is Jaws fans have spoken and they are continuing to be heard loud and clear. By judging by these numbers, by the Book of Quint reaching number 27 on the world rankings for historical thrillers on Amazon. And here at the Jaws Obsession, this just fuels the fire to burn even brighter. So it's just great. It's a great thing to see. And I want everyone to know, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's quite the honor to be in this position. But we're not done. We have a lot of work left to do. We're still doing research. We got a lot of things going on here. And I want to thank you very much for all of your support out there. Once again, remember, I will see you at Westhoughton. I'm going to be headed over to England this weekend, August 16th and 17th. Follow the link in the description below. Go right to the link tree, and that will send you to the right place. With that, and until the next show, I'd like to bid you farewell and adieu. Show me the way to go home.